So today's a big day for us. Today we get a special package, something we've been waiting for a long time to have in our main equipment lineup. Something that, to quote the poet Carly Rae Jepsen, "Before you came into my life, I missed you so bad." This is something that we've been waiting for a long time for, and we're really eagerly awaiting the UPS guy. I am, of course, talking about adobo seasoning. Well, no. I do think the mixture of garlic and pepper is inspired, but today we are also getting a delivery of the Sony 50mm f1.2. I know once it comes I'll want to tear into the package right away, so I wanted to start with how this fits into the arc of our relationship to photography gear. First, a note. All told, I'm strongly against the idea, enforced by a handful of social media titans wreaking havoc on society, that everything has to be a video, or God forbid, a vertical video. But I'm just a guy, and that war is lost for now. And I have learned that video is good for some people in some circumstances. It's much easier to listen to while driving in a car, for instance. So all this people will be, in some ways, both text and video, and hopefully in ever-increasing quality. I've written out the words that I'm saying now, and these words will always be posted as an article alongside it. Hopefully along the way, I'll also learn to write scripts and read from a teleprompter in ways that make me sound vaguely like a human being. This is much harder than it looks, as the Phantom Menace taught us all. So, okay. Since the original 5D was launched in 2005, wedding photographers have largely been bound to the idea that images should have as little in focus as possible. We don't always work like this. Our extensive work in flash compositing is all about allowing us to shoot at smaller apertures without bringing wheelbarrows of equipment, but oh boy, do we understand why. Wedding photographers have very little control over their environment. What at f5.6 is an exit sign is a pretty red dot at f1.4. Open wide enough and that videographer in the background doesn't exist. When you have minimal control over the environment and are working with people who have never before been photographed in this manner and you have very little time, having the ability to make any background nice and pretty can be a big deal. Also, we wedding photographers often have to capture important moments and moving people in pretty dark settings. Camera sensors have gotten better and better, but so have our expectations. People want to be able to see action and color as it existed in a dark setting in ways they wouldn't even have dreamed of back in the days of Kodachrome. Being able to photograph people laughing and hugging and otherwise being alive and moving, even if they are lit by candlelight, and having as little noise and muddiness as possible along the way is really useful. So, I've been chasing fast lenses ever since my beginning as a wedding photographer. I used Nikon's only autofocus f1.4 lens, the old 28mm f1.4, when most people hadn't even heard of it. I own two different 58mm f1.2 Nock lenses, and I sold them both when their collector's pricing sat uncomfortably with my tendency to bash my lenses into the ground. And most extremely, two different times I bought into the Canon system and bought a third camera to bring with me just so that I could have the option of a 50mm 1.2. While it hasn't focused on what the heck designs like some of Canon's exotic RF offerings, Sony has built itself an ever better lineup of fast lenses, from a small and fantastic 24mm f1.4 to a 135mm f1.8 sharp enough to shave with. But the 50mm f1.4 always seemed a bit too long and heavy and pricey for the aperture to be worth it to us. And so I've been using the 55mm f1.8 as our autofocus option for a while now. But like I said, we chase the extremes, and I've also been using this bad boy since 2015, the Mitacon 50mm f0.95. It's a really interesting lens, which is another way to say a deeply flawed one. Photography is art, so sometimes flaws can make a photo better. But if this lens started a little rough around the edges, now it's like Rocky in the 18th round. It wiggles and shakes and moves in ways that lenses aren't supposed to, allowing us to have a little bit of a freelancing effect, shifting the focal plane around simply by taking advantage of the ways in which it's broken. It's fun, and you can make great pictures with it, and we'll keep it around because we love its flaws and its flair. But for those situations where you have to catch moments and tell stories, we're so excited to add a low-light workhorse to our lineup. We will really be putting it through its paces for the next couple weeks, and we'll take you along with us on the ride. So, see you soon.